Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, January 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against Texas in 5 days, the game against Michigan in 328 days. Going to be talking about that Cotton Bowl game against Texas. Going to be letting you hear directly from Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian, probably someone that Ohio State fans have not heard a whole heck of a lot from over the years. He's coached all over the place, but never in the Big Ten. So you get a chance to hear from him. He had some interesting stuff to say during the press conference previewing the Cotton Bowl game just a couple days ago. Going to let you hear from him about a bunch of different stuff. First thing, Ohio State's fast starts. The Buckeyes have outscored their opponents 35-0 in the first quarter of their 2 CFP games. So what is Steve Sarkisian's takeaway on how they're doing it?
I think it's probably credit to their coaching staff, first of all. Game planning, putting together a nice plan on offense, defense, and special teams, instilling that plan to the players, and the players playing with confidence. I think that's the one thing that jumps out when you watch it, is how confidently they're playing. They're definitely calling it aggressively, but the execution is at a really high level. So that's what jumps out at us.
The Texas Longhorns sometimes have one of the most explosive and diverse offenses in America. Sometimes. They ran the ball 48 times for 292 yards against Clemson. Able to run the ball, able to pass the ball. Really, really complete performance there. That was the first round of the college football playoff. Here's the problem. The game before that, in the SEC championship game, 28 carries for 31 yards against Georgia. The game after that, in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff in the Peach Bowl, 30 carries, 53 yards versus Arizona State. So what's the deal there? If Texas can't run the ball, are they just going to have to lean on the pass in the Cotton Bowl, or are they going to have to just keep hammering the rock and hope something breaks?
Well, I hope not. I hope that we can find balance, and I think that we're more than equipped to do that. I think that, in really evaluating the last ball game was, man, we really couldn't get our backs free into the second level. I thought Arizona State did a nice job. I thought their safeties and their secondary tackled well and got us on the ground. And we didn't get a whole lot of reps to find the rhythm of it. And so everybody's kind of got to take some responsibility of that. But we're at our best when we can run it, and that gives us balance. And so I'm hard pressed not to just kind of walk away from it and abandon it. So we've got to do a great job as a staff of putting together a good plan, and make sure that our players can execute it at a high level, versus the myriad of looks, especially that Ohio State can give you.
One of the big themes of the quarterfinals of the college football playoffs was that all 4 teams that had a first-round bye, all 4 conference champions, they all lost. 0-4. So does that mean there's an advantage to playing early and not having that long layoff? Do they need to tweak something for next year? Here's Sarkisian's thoughts on that.
I don't know. I've referenced this before. My initial thought on all of this was similar to the NCAA basketball tournament, that, if you win your conference championship, you get an automatic bid into the tournament, like they do in basketball. And then the committee seeds the tournament, and I've referenced these 2 schools just because they're in the same conference. But how many times have Duke and North Carolina both been number 1 seeds coming out of the ACC for all those years? And so, like in this instance, if this year were that way, we would have been the 3 seed, and we would have gotten a bye. But because of the guaranteed spots as 1 seeds, we went in as the 5 seed and we had to play. And so I don't know if there's necessarily an advantage or a disadvantage to it that way. I know our guys were chomping at the bit to get back out there and play and compete. But I also know we're going into our 16th game here coming up this coming week, and without a real significant rest. We've been finding our spots to get some rest and to get healthy, but we didn't get that massive rest that I think a lot of the other teams do. Now, I don't know if that's beneficial or not. I think there is something to be said about playing football consistently in rhythm and routine and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure I have a great answer for what is best, but what I do know, that would have been my one recommendation to the seeding process.
A lot of the questions on this press conference, especially from the Texas side of the media, all kind of were along the lines of, so Ohio State's offense looks really, really good right now. What exactly do you plan to do about that? So here's Steve Sarkisian's thoughts on what they need to do to disrupt the Buckeye offense.
Well, I think we've got to be really good at the line of scrimmage against the run and the pass. Ohio State's similar to us that way. When they have balance, they're very difficult, and so we've got to be good against the run. We got to try to affect him in the pocket, and we need to disrupt timing in the back end. We need to disguise our coverage as well. We need to be sticky in coverage. We need to get hands on footballs. We need to make throwing lanes difficult. We need to get our hands up at the line of scrimmage. So there's a lot of factors to that. Not an easy task, I'll say that, but one that I think is going to be necessary if we want to be successful.
One of the big storylines heading into this game is going to be Texas starting quarterback Quinn Ewers. He's been one of the biggest names in college football. He stars in those Dr. Pepper commercials, and he's been a multi-year starter for the Longhorns, going to be a key part of how this game plays out. And of course, he started his college career at Ohio State in 2021. He enrolled in college a year early, spent one season with the Buckeyes, took exactly 3 snaps at the end of the Michigan State game, and that was it. And then went to Texas after that. So how has Steve Sarkisian seen Quinn Ewers develop since he got back from Ohio State?
Well, like anything, when he went to Ohio State early on, he should have still been a senior in high school, and when we got him back, he was still, in our eyes, a freshman at that time. And so there's been a lot of development, I would say physical development, but I would also probably say mental and emotional development to watch him grow into the leader that he's grown into for us. His ability to have the poise and composure he has, not only on the field, but off the field, to look into the face of adversity and come out on the other side of it time and time again, whether it be injuries, whatever that looks like, to be at his best when his best was needed. Similar to the Peach Bowl there at the end of the game and in overtime. So I think that's all from a seismic shift from maturity standpoint. Like I said, physically and mentally.
This new postseason format is new for everyone this year, but there's definitely some weird quirks to what Texas's postseason schedule could look like. They started the postseason playing in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. Then they played a home game in the first round of the playoffs, and they went back to Atlanta for the Peach Bowl. Now they're going to the Cotton Bowl in Arlington, very close to home, and then they could go back to Atlanta potentially for the third time in about a month and a half. Is there a benefit to playing in familiar places or playing in places multiple times?
I think it's been really fun. I'll be honest with you. I thought, in our first year in the SEC, to play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the SEC championship in Atlanta, I thought was an awesome experience for our guys. Coming back home and being part of the first round of the college football playoffs and having a home game, I thought was another really cool experience. The fact that we hosted one of the inaugural home games in the CFP was really cool. And then an opportunity to play in the Peach Bowl, an iconic bowl, and for us to win that and to be the first team to win all the major bowls in that fashion, I thought was fantastic. But now to be in the semis and playing the Cotton Bowl in Dallas is huge. We're going to need our fans. We're going to need our fan support. I need Longhorn Nation to show out in Arlington. We're going to need everything we got to try to win this game. Clearly we're massive underdogs. Nobody's going to give us a shot. So we're going to need all that we can to try to win this game.
Before Will Howard was the starting quarterback at Ohio State, he was the starting quarterback at Kansas State. And Kansas State and Texas were conference rivals, but right up until the Horns moved to the SEC this year. So when Steve Sarkisian in Texas faced Will Howard at K-State, what were his impressions of there and also Howard on tape this year heading into this game?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is he's a much better athlete than people probably give him credit for. He snapped off about a 70-yard touchdown run against us a few years ago. So he has good speed. He's got great poise and composure in the pocket. You can tell he's very bright. The system they ran at Kansas State put a lot on the quarterback, and knowing Coach Kelly and Coach Day and what they do. So him managing, the offenses that way. So he's got intelligence, he's got athletic ability, and then his ability to throw a catchable ball. I've seen that now for a few years. He throws passes where they need to be thrown, and guys make plays for him. And his poise and composure in critical moments is something that has been very impressive as well.
Ohio State has some potential difference makers on both sides of the ball. I say that, and of course, everyone immediately thinks Jeremiah Smith. And yeah, that's probably true. But on defense, they also have Caleb Downs. He's someone who Texas faced last year when he was at Alabama. So how much does having to go up against Caleb Downs impact your game plan on offense?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb's a fantastic football player. Obviously we played against him last year, his freshman year at Alabama, and made some impactful plays in that game. You can sense and feel his football IQ, his awareness, but yet the athletic ability to cover ground to make plays, but then the physical ability to get people on the ground to take on blocks. So he's a complete player. He's all around player. And again, we got to look at the scheme first when we start building the call sheet. And Coach Knowles is a fantastic defensive coach, been doing it a long time. Very good at developing plans that put his best players in position to have success. Caleb being one of those. And so we got to look at the schemes before we even really start dialing into the specific players. And then try to put our players in the best position to have success. So that's always a process. It's a fun process to have. But again, opportunity for our guys to go against our defense every day, which we think is pretty good. That always helps our guys kind of prepare for the speed, the closing ability on the ball that is going to be necessary on game day.
And finally, Sarkisian has talked a bunch this year about the obsession about winning a national title. So has that changed at all now that they're just 2 games away?
We didn't come this far just to come this far, I guess would be what I'd tell you. It's how it's manifested itself. It's like the journey's not done. The mission is not complete. It's still a driving force behind, what we do every day, why we wake up so early, why we stay so late, why our players are, come in on an off day when we were asking them not to be here and they're in here watching tape, working out, stretching, striding, getting rehab. It's all that, it's all that continues to push you, because none of this is guaranteed. Today's not guaranteed, but none of this is guaranteed. It's not like, well, we'll just get back here again next year. We're back in the Final Four for the second consecutive season. And those other 3 teams that were here a year ago with us didn't make the 12-team playoff, never mind the Final Four. So nothing's guaranteed. It's difficult to get to this spot. And we will want to make sure that we maximize this opportunity and put our best foot forward and see what happens.
Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Always like to hear from new coaches, new players, different programs. That's kind of been one of the fun things about this college football postseason. Got a chance to learn a lot about the Tennessee Volunteers and then a lot about the Oregon Ducks. And this week, we're going to be learning a lot about the Texas Longhorns, Sarkisian, Quinn Yates, the whole team. Tony Gerdeman and I have already done our first game rewatch show. That's in the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed, breaking down what we learned watching the SEC championship game. We're going to watch the 2 college football playoff games that the Horns have played as well. So you can look for that in the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Got a couple of Ross Fulton analysis shows coming up as well for you, breaking down the Buckeyes offense and defense in the Rose Bowl, what that might mean moving forward against the Longhorns. And we're going to have a ton more coverage coming up all week long down in Texas. Tony, Kevin, and I headed down to the Lone Star State Tuesday evening. Coverage will start in earnest on Wednesday. There's going to be a lot to talk about. The place to talk about all of it is at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. We got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.